What happened to Emmanuel Macron? Well, out of the blue, he has come out with a call to stop shipping any arms and ammunition to Israel. Well, this is something that is perhaps unexpected. Everyone thought that the West was united in its support for Israel against the terrorist Hamas and their acts. And now, of course, with Hezbollah and what is also happening with the Houthis. It's not like the French are not suffering from the onslaught of Houthi drones in the Red Sea or in the Indian Ocean. So, why did Macron make this call? What gives? Well, for that, we need to go back and look at the politics of France. We know that the right, which is under Marine Le Pen, has been seeing a growth. We know that, right? Now, what had happened was this year there were elections for the president. And in that, Macron came a distant third, with Marine Le Pen coming first with 33%. But then you need to get an absolute majority to become president. Well, this is where something very interesting happened. What happened is that the parties that were supposed to be, rallying behind one or the top two finishers, something very interesting happened. It is believed that some kind of cross voting took place, perhaps for the first time in France, and what we ended up seeing was the left parties completely dominating the next round of elections. And therefore, Marine Le Pen has to wait for some more time before she can hope to become president. But what has now emerged in the structure of the French Parliament, I'm going to share with you a small single slide, this time just one slide, and I'm going to talk to that. Before I do that, small request to all of you to like this video. Here we go. So this is the current French Parliament. And if you look at it, how did the left, the hard left, score so well? The final numbers are, by the way, you can see a whole bunch of parties here, but there are mainly three coalitions. There are small independents after that. The three main coalitions are NPF, which is 182. This is hard left. Then the Ensemble, which is the coalition that consists of Macron's party also, that has 168, and the right has 143. Suddenly, Marie Le Pen again has slid back to the third position. This is where I'm saying that a lot of hanky-panky took place, and we don't know what exactly happened after that. But now what we see is that the parliament has the center. Macron is supposed to be at the center, and he is being supported by the hard left. Is it the hard left that is now yanking his chain and saying that, well, if you want our support, then you better call for this? That is, put an embargo on shipment of arms and ammunition to Israel, because we don't like what is happening to the other side. The other side appears to be losing. By the way, France has had a long and checkered history with Iran. Remember, Ayatollah Khomeini, when he was in exile, where was he? He was in France. So he flew back from France in 1979 to become the Grand Ayatollah and the leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So France has a few diehards who support Iran, and this is sometimes, France's way of trying to, tell the rest of the West that no, we are different, we are similar, but we are different, we do matter, and so on and so forth. On the surface, this appears to be the reason why Macron has now called for embargoing any kind of shipment of arms and ammunition to Israel. But does it really matter? As to what the Israeli Prime Minister said, I have a small video clip of that. Here we go.
I have a message for President Macron. Today, Israel is defending itself on 7 fronts against the enemies of civilization. We're fighting in Gaza against Hamas, those savages who murdered, raped, beheaded, and burned our people on October 7th. We're fighting in Lebanon against Hezbollah, the most heavily armed terror organization in the world, which was planning an even greater massacre than October 7th on our northern border, and that has rocketed Israeli towns and cities for nearly a year. We're fighting against the Houthis in Yemen and the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria that together have launched hundreds of drones and missile attacks against Israel. We're fighting against terrorists in Judea and Samaria who are trying to murder civilians in the heart of our cities. And we're fighting against Iran, which last week fired over 200 ballistic missiles directly at Israel, and which stands behind the seven-front war against Israel. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel. Shame on them. Is Iran imposing an arms embargo on Hezbollah, on the Houthis, on Hamas, and on its other proxies? Of course not. The axis of terror stands together. But countries who supposedly oppose this terror axis call for an arms embargo on Israel. What a disgrace. Well, let me tell you this. Israel will win with or without their support. But their shame will continue long after the war is won. For in defending ourselves against this barbarism, Israel is defending civilizations against those who seek to impose a dark age of fanaticism on all of us. Rest assured, Israel will fight until the battle is won, for our sake and for the sake of the peace and security of the entire world.
Israel does get a few arms here and there from the Western nations, but the bulk of what it gets is from the United States. And much of that stuff, its own stuff, it makes for its own. It doesn't even need a lot of help from the other countries. See, this is where the problem is. Unless you have like a grip on the jugular, meaning like a vice-like grip, you cannot really call these embargoes. These are all mainly lip service. In fact, we are seeing that Iran is suing for a ceasefire in Lebanon. And Lebanon also wants a ceasefire. Iran's foreign minister has actually requested the good offices of India in trying to bring about a ceasefire in the current conflict. But if you look at what Israel wants, what does Israel want? Israel wanted a buffer zone from 2006. The UN that was supposed to provide that did not. It actually sided with the Islamic countries. And therefore, you saw what ended up happening. So now, what Israel has decided to do, I think, is that they said, we will build our own buffer inside Lebanon and make sure that no Hezbollah exists in this particular buffer zone. The buffer zone is loosely defined to be between the northern border of Israel with Lebanon and the Litani River in Lebanon. It's like 25-30 kilometers, and it almost runs parallel to the border. So it's sort of like, this is where we want to come, and beyond this, we won't allow any Hezbollah to live here. As to how they will separate the Hezbollah people from the remaining population, and that's something that Israel will have to figure out. But this is where things stand. Do I think that anything is going to change in the current conflict? I don't think so. Israel must have done all these calculations. They know that the United States is not looking at what is happening here. It's got its complete eyeballs on the upcoming presidential election in 30 days. Whatever it needs to do, fast steps, it's going to do it in the next few days. In fact, October 7th might be something that might see a significant move on part of Israel to do something. What is that? Nobody knows, but expect a surprise. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.